Looking to play an unconventional Pauper deck that'll catch your opponents off guard? Well, with today's deck tech, we'll be going over Generator Red. Let's take a look.
Alright, so what exactly is Generator Red? Well, Generator Red is a Pauper deck that I've been testing around with for a few months or so, and I got the idea from mono red decks, specifically burn decks, but I felt like they didn't really have that much of a board presence. So what I decided to do was cut a lot of the burn stuff out for creatures, so that way I can have a much more commanding board presence. And with the creatures that I'm playing in here, I can actually just speed out and kill my opponent before they can set up their Is It Drake combo or whatever else that they're playing. So the namesake card of the deck is Generator Servant, which is 1 and a red for a 2/1. Sacrifice it, add 2 mana to your mana pool. If it's spent on a creature, it gains haste. So since we're playing a bunch of cheap, efficient threats, when you sacrifice Generator Servant, you can just get a ton of value and sneak in a lot of damage. So the kind of stuff that we want to be cracking our Generator Servant into is little weird things like Bogard Lancer, for instance. It's a little 1/1 for 1 and a red with Bloodthirst 1, so it can be a 2/2, but it has flanking, which is the interesting part. So whenever a creature without flanking blocks this creature, that blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So this messes up combat math pretty badly for your opponent, and it can help get through really iffy board states. So this card is actually surprisingly good in the deck. And next we have Borderland Marauder. So Borderland Marauder is a 1 and a red for a 1/2, which isn't that great at all, but whenever it attacks, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Ideally, when we crack it with Generator Servant, we're only going to have to pay 1 red for it and deal 3 damage as soon as it attacks. So in that sense, it's kind of like a lightning bolt, and for that reason it makes the cut in the deck. Next we have Mock War Marshal, which is 1 red for a 1/1 that gives you a 1/1 red goblin token whenever it enters the battlefield or dies. So you immediately get the value out of it even if you cast it for 2. Even with its echo cost, which there's some games where you do want to pay that echo cost, but most of the times you won't, because paying 1 red mana to get 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens on the battlefield is more than enough. And for the last of our creatures, we're going to be playing Plated Geopede, which is a 1/1 with first strike that gets landfall. So it can be a 3/3 first striker, which is good enough for the deck, especially having 3 power and 3 toughness is actually really relevant in the format. And then to follow it up, we have Sting Scourger, which is essentially the red Manowar. And if you don't know what Manowar does, is it returns a creature to its owner's hand, and it's a blue creature. But so Sting Scourger does the exact same thing, except it has an echo of 4. Never played a game where I actually paid the echo cost. It's pretty much essentially a hasty 2/2 during the right circumstances, and it bounces something back to your opponent, which is actually a really good tempo play in this deck. Moving on to our non-creature spells, we're kicking things off with Lightning Bolt, classic red card. You pretty much want to play it in every red deck you can. Then we have Firebolt, which is 1 red, deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So it's like Shock, except that it has flashback for 4 and a red. So that means late game we can always just reuse it to go over the top and shoot our opponent down, or take out a Delver's Secrets that's killing us. So the last card that we have is Lightning Strike, which is 1 and a red, and it's Lightning Bolt, except it costs 1 more. For the last of our non-creature spells, we have Dynacharge, which is a nice little combat trick, but if we can overload it, it turns into a really sweet anthem that can kill our opponents out of nowhere. And then we have Madcap Skills, which is a super sweet and underplayed enchantment, and it gives that creature +3/+0 and menace. So in a deck like this where we're really heavy on creatures and we want to kill our opponent as fast as possible, Madcap Skills is a perfect fit for the deck. As far as lands go, we just got 20 mountains. Now moving on to the sideboard, we have Electrickery, which is 1 and a red, instant, deals 1 damage to target creature you don't control with Overload, which means it hits all other creatures that we don't control. So essentially we're going to be wanting to play this against white weenie strategies or any token strategies, because they will get wider than us, and it's a really bad matchup from the beginning. So having something like Electrickery is really important. Next we have Pyroblast to pretty much combat every blue deck that's running wild right now. And then we have Hearth Charm, which is a really sweet modal spell, and it fits perfectly into what we want to do for our deck, especially since it's essentially another Dynacharge, plus a lot more on top of that. And for our last cards, we have Smash the Smithereens, which is really good against all the affinity decks that we're running around. It's not as good anymore, especially since the deck's fallen out of popularity, but we still keep it in the sideboard just in case. And then we have the last of our lightning strikes, just in case we need to keep shooting our opponents in the face, or if they have a bunch of pesky creatures that we need to keep getting rid of. And that's the deck for you guys. It's actually really fun to play with, and I would suggest playing around with it because there's a lot of different little strategies that you can go. It's not just one path to victory. This deck can go long game surprisingly, especially with cards like Madcap skills and using fire bolts, flashing them back, and using Dyna charges as sweet trumpet blast effects. So this deck can not only win in the first couple of turns, but it can also win turn past 5, 6, 7. So it's a deck I would highly suggest at least trying out.
And if you like this video, guys, remember to subscribe, throw a like my way, and put a comments down in the comment section down below and let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.